UCF head coach Scott.
Yeah. We want to close the chapter on former head coach Scott. We've done that, but he keeps showing back up in our lives, in headlines, etc. Are you rooting for Scott at UCF? Connor, you start.
Connor, go.
I've been going to therapy a lot recently.
Oh, good.
This is just a toxic relationship. We want to move on. And I've seen comments about people like, why are you still talking about this guy? Whatever. The reason we still talk about him is because he still talks about us.
He talks about us
Without putting his name in their mouth.
Yeah. And with the Mike Usen article from Sports Illustrated today saying that he would not take accountability for his failures at Nebraska. That's not news. You didn't do it while you were here. I have nothing against UCF, but no, I'm not rooting for him. Fuck you. Like,
fuck you.
Just
keep it simple.
Just leave us alone.
Go away.
We are moving past this.
Yeah.
We have a healthy relationship with our current head coach, Matt Rule. At least it seems to be. No, I'm not rooting for you. I'm focused on my current relationship. Move on. He needs to move on. Kyle, what do you think?
Number one, we keep saying leave us alone. He never mentions our name. He keeps our name out his mouth. What are we expecting until he gets past his first season at UCF? Reporters are always going to ask, because that's the natural question, right? It did not go well at your previous spot.
Yeah, my
And
last ex.
He's never going to get up and he's not going to say, oh yeah, Nebraska was a shithole for me. And like, oh, it was bad. And he's never going to say that stuff, right? Now, the like backhanded comments where it's like, yeah, people wanted me to go there. I didn't want to go there. I wasn't really happy. Whatever. Right. Fine. Sure. You might have felt like that. But to me, he's really not dragging us through the mud. He's literally never said Nebraska.
Can he not just say, I learned a lot?
He could.
Just something like that. Like, you don't have to say, like.
He could. And on the accountability aspect, there's a lot where he could come out and say, yeah, I just didn't have this right. Matt Rule came to Nebraska and said, yeah, I got fired for reasons that sometimes were out of my control, sometimes were in my control. Yeah. He said, I learned a lot with the Panthers. It didn't work out. Matt Rule has come out and he's just been very transparent. He seems to just not ever take that accountability. That
Never
does
done
bother
Nebraska.
me.
Yeah.
So it does bother you.
It does bother me.
Okay. And I think one of the main reasons why it bothers Husker fans so much, he has the comment about meat grinder. We would agree with him on that. It is a meat grinder.
100%.
And this job is not for everybody, just like the state isn't. When you have people like Scott that have been here and they don't do well and they don't admit that they could have done things a little better or it could have done this differently. It's like you're saying that there's something wrong with the place rather than something you did, right? And so we take that personally.
Mm-hmm.
When you go out there and say, it's really hard to win there without talking about the great things about this program. Dude, there are so many great things about it. Now, you have to be a different type of person to take advantage of those advantages that we have that other schools don't.
The statement, Nebraska is a hard place to win. I'm going to go back to UCF. It's like, so what does that say about you? You just weren't up to the challenge and you want to go back to where it's easy to do the job.
Yeah, he said like palm trees and
just this immense cop out that like it's hard there. We're in the Big Ten. The Big Ten's like the hardest conference in football right now.
Are you rooting against him?
Yeah.
You're rooting against him.
Yeah.
If I'm watching football on a Saturday and I happen to see a UCF score across the bottom and they win, I'm not going to do cartwheels. I'm not going to say good for Scott. Now, if they lose, I'm also not going to cheer and be like, fuck Scott. I am the definition of neutral, but at the same time, I don't want them to win 9 games.
Yeah.
Or make a playoff. I don't want them to do that. I want them to be mid as fuck.
My extent of my recognition will be if they win on that bottom ticker, I go, huh. And if they lose, I go, that's it.
Yeah.
It's a one-syllable reaction,
Like, it's
regardless of result. He doesn't occupy, that program doesn't really occupy any part of my mind.
Yeah.
Except for like, oh, there's the score.
I want them to be 6-6 every year. That's what I want. That's what I want for him.
So Nebraska.
The only positive thing, if Scott wins at UCF, the only positive part is just reaffirming how bad the Big 12 is.
Yeah.
That's the only positive part for me. If Scott wins at UCF, is it just reaffirms how bad the Big 12 is. Now, everything else, when I see that bottom ticker, I want to see him lose every single game.
L.
Because
Mike,
he refuses to take accountability. I always say, don't point the finger if you can't point the thumb. And I said that the entire time he was at Nebraska. Dude had a huge issue with pointing the thumb. And he can say whatever the hell he wants about, oh, I didn't want to go there and this and that. he was also the one that was being anointed the freaking golden boy, going up there saying that people are going to adjust to him type shit. So you can say this now, hindsight's 2020. Now that you realize that you sucked and you didn't put in enough work to get the job done.
I will always say, and I've said it many times, both on the pod and off, Nebraska had to make the hire. Scott, you had to come here. We had to do it. Imagine, just imagine. For real, Scott, I'm talking to you right now, Scott. I know you're watching. Hi, buddy. Imagine if you would have made it work. Being a legend at Nebraska, it's not the same as being a legend at UCF. Imagine if you would have made it work.
Yeah.
Dude, you would have been our TO. But it didn't turn out that way. But we had to figure that out. We had to go through the process. It was a lot harder to win here than you thought it would be. You guys remember at Kansas State, he was talking about, oh, they're not good enough and they're tearing this place apart. It's a little bit harder than you thought. But dude, you would have spent all your time at UCF wondering, damn, why didn't I go? I could have been a legend, all that. Had to happen.
We're going to put a bow on the Scott fuck era forever.
Forever. Until the next article comes out.
It didn't work. Yeah. But I'm not going to root for the guy. It'd be different if, like I said, it's his home. If he would have gone in there and been like, hey, that's my home. That's my alma mater. I don't have anything else to say. Don't ask me any more questions about Nebraska. I just want to focus on UCF. Totally fine with it. He hasn't done that. He refuses to do that. So fuck off.
Right. I mean, he could have just said it was a valuable learning experience.
Yes.
But by him not doing that, he is implying that it was strictly the place.
Hey,
yep.
Yeah.
And we cannot accept that as a fan base.
Absolutely not. Right?
That's what pissed me off the most. That article mentioned Frank Solich and Bo Pelini. I feel that the University of Nebraska did both of those dudes wrong. And so for the longest time, if I saw Frank Solich, he gets added into the Hall of Fame and all this other stuff, I'm like, yeah, hell yeah. You had great success. Great success.
Very nice.
Very nice. And then Bo Pelini, like, even to this day, I have no hard feelings against Bo Pelini. Whatever was said when the mics were hot, whatever, doesn't bother me whatsoever because I feel like the University of Nebraska did both of them wrong. It is the total opposite of what Scott went through.
It gave him every opportunity, every resource.
Too many opportunities.
Way too many. That's why we started this freaking podcast.
When we gave him the keys, big mistake.
Big mistake.
This whole question of why would you root for him? A big thing is he comes across as unlikable. Scott does.
Mm-hmm.
He just comes across as unlikable and kind of a dick, right? Which is great. If you're winning.
Yeah.
You can be the biggest asshole on planet Earth. I don't think people are clamoring that Nick Saban was some sweetheart. Okay. But he won a lot. He's kind of a dick. You have to kind of win to earn that, being an asshole. And I think that's kind of how he comes across by not just saying, I could have done better.
And I'm a grown man. Yeah. I'm not going to sit around on Saturdays and be like, Scott Frost, I hope you know, I could care less what you do from here on out.
I don't need him to admit fault. Do you know why? Because I already know that.
Yeah.
I already know. That's all I'm going to say.
16 and 31. 16 and 31. I think he had enough talent here.
At least to do better than what he did.
Yeah.
There it is. Thank you. There it is.
And with that, we're putting a bow, at least for the foreseeable future, on former head coach Scott.
Until the next interview.
Yep.